So it's been a while, but we got a new chapter of Vinland Saga. Chapter 208 is out and translated. Thank you guys for getting that done. Really appreciate it. And we're going to talk about it. And I will say, right off the bat, before we really get into the details, that I did enjoy this chapter. I did like it. I think it's a great chapter for Cordelia's character. And I think it plays into the themes and ideas that Vinland Saga has always talked about in a pretty masterful way. However, having said that, after waiting 2 months, I really wanted to get back to Thorfinn. I really wanted to see that side of the story, and that is not in this chapter at all. I can't lie to you guys, when I got to that final page of the chapter, even though I enjoyed it, I couldn't help but feel just like a singe of disappointment, just being like, like I really wanted to get back to Thorfinn and Hild, and I wanted to see what was happening with those characters. But we don't get that here, but hey, just great things take time, man. Gotta allow Yukimura to work his magic and get these chapters pumped out whenever he can, man. I don't want to rush him. I want him to, this is his final arc of his masterpiece story, so it's up to him to kind of take his time and really work on it to give us the best possible quality that he possibly can. I understand that, and I respect that. But as like the fan in me, the Thorfinn fanboy in me is like, I really wanted to see Thorfinn this chapter, but anyways, let's get into what we did get. So this chapter pretty much continues where we left off, where there is this kind of rogue group of the natives that are coming into the Norseman village and setting some fires. And what they're really doing is looking for the big knife or the sword. And they're kind of doing things their own way, away from what the other tribes people were doing. But then that all went awry, and now Thorfinn is running, and they're after Thorfinn, so there's so much chaos that's happening here. But this pretty much focuses on what's going on with Cordelia, although the opening pages does show us Ivyar noticing the fires and heading towards it, and I think the most prominent thing about this, of course, taking the sword with him. And I've talked about this many times on many other Vinland Saga reviews, but Ivyar is not a bad person. He wants to protect the Norsemen, and he doesn't want to be the cause of war. When he attacked the shaman, he was doing that genuinely to try to protect Thorfinn because he didn't understand the situation at hand. And I think a lot of the themes of the story kind of go with that, like lack of communication, lack of understanding, lack of empathy, like those kind of things. But Ivyar is not a bad person, okay? So he is doing what he believes is right here, and for all intents and purposes, he probably should be doing this. He probably should be going towards the fires to see what's wrong, to try to protect people, and of course he's taking the sword with him because that's the weapon he has. That's the weapon he brought. It's the only sword in the entire village of Arnid, as far as we know, and so it makes sense. So I don't see this as like a devious thing or like a dark thing, but perhaps it's kind of like the inevitability of it all. Like eventually the sword would be used for this purpose, like the fact that the sword was brought here at all, like that was the cause of like the initiation of this. Inadvertently so, even though there was good intentions behind it. And I think that that's another kind of theme of the story as well. Like you might have positive intentions. You might be thinking that you're being righteous in some way, but in fact, it's just kind of causing a ripple effect that causes way more problems. And so that's what this could be leading towards as well. But unfortunately, this is the only time that we see Ivyar in the story. It's just these opening panels, but he's heading towards the commotion. So we're going to see what's going to happen with that in the future. This chapter is mostly, I guess, the culmination of Cordelia's character. Of course, the son of Thorkel that was raised as a girl in order to protect him from being pushed off into war, being pushed into becoming Thorkel Part 2. So Cordelia grew up, I guess you could say, physically weak, as an outcast, as somebody that was an easy target, somebody to be bullied, somebody that doesn't feel like they fit into society or the normal situation, eventually sold off into slavery. So all of these horrible things have basically happened to her entire life, right? So always kind of been at the mercy of somebody else, always been, I guess, in a way, a victim. But it's because of that lack, that kind of like fear, that anxiety in order to stand up for yourself and actually, be able to protect yourself and defend yourself. And so you kind of look at that and you're like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that you are weak? Are you weak if you are unable to protect yourself in any particular way, right? If you're too scared to stand up against those that are combating you or to subjugating you or ridiculing you. And if it starts from childhood, as in we see here, like from early childhood being bullied into the slavery, into now like the natives pelting arrows at her and everything. So it's like, what is this all building up to? What does this mean? Does it mean useless? I can't try anymore. Why do I even bother to survive? That kind of thing. And I think you reach a point in life where you do have to stand up for yourself. However, sometimes when you feel inferior, or if the world has kind of pushed you in a way to make you feel inferior, it's really hard to be able to stand up for yourself. And so you feel that lack of bravery, you feel that lack of conviction, and you feel like that's just what the norm is. And so you accept it. You accept all of this, pain and subjugation. And that's kind of like who you become, and that's who you identify as, right? The more that you're pushed into it, the more that you believe it, the more that you identify with it, that's what you become. However, Cordelia's mom, always mentioned the strength that she saw in her, right? She said that you are strong, stronger than your father can even see, but saying like, right now I'm so scared that my body can't move, and the mother confirming you are strong. True strength is born from a kind heart. And I think that this is really interesting. I think this is pretty much in line with all the core themes of Vinland Saga, because Cordelia never seemed to have strength for herself. But when it came to her mom, and we see like the flashbacks of her mom passing away, and we also see, more kind of like motivation, talks from her mom. Their mom saw something in her that nobody else saw, which I think is also, something interesting too, because sometimes, your mom obviously has like a built-in bias to, to see the best in you no matter what. However, sometimes they can see things that you can't see yourself, and they can recognize something about you more than anybody else can. Anyway, what I think this is all building towards, and I think this is true for a lot of people, is a lot of times we don't see the value within ourselves, right? But when it comes to other people that we care about or people that we love, we will stand up to defend them until our dying breath, right? So it's like, you can make fun of me all you want. You can throw shit at me. You can step on me all you want, but you're not going to step on my friend. You're not going to step on my mom. You're not going to step on, your loved ones or whatever. It's like, there's some kind of disconnect where it's like, you're not able to stand up for yourself. But when it comes to somebody that you care about, that passion, that love, that allows you to kind of invoke strength that you've never had before. And I think that that's what it comes down to with Cordelia, is because she was never able to stand up for herself, right? But when it came to people that she cared about, she was. And I think that that's what her mom saw in her. She saw the strength within the kindness. She saw the strength within that idea of love and compassion, because although love and hate, both extremely powerful motivators, I think love gives you that incentive to want to stick around longer, to want to fight harder, to want to basically go until your dying breath, right? And they talk about rebirth here within Cordelia happening at the same time. By the way, finally, Thorfinn and Gudrid's child, finally born. I'm just saying, like, this is actually a big deal, because this has been going on for like multiple chapters now. Finally born. He's here. I forget what Thorfinn's son's name is. I believe it's his son. Yeah, but this is actually a big deal. This is actually huge. This is actually huge. And Gudrid's still alive. Well, at least for the moment, Anyways, the whole point is Cordelia finds her strength in wanting to defend the people that she cares about. But what's interesting about it, and also in line with the themes of Vinland Saga, is that Cordelia does not lash out. She does not fight back per se. It's all about defense. It's all about protection and defense. It's not about attack. It's not about the offensive. It's about protection, which kind of goes in line with what happened with her, because that was the whole intent. That's why she was raised as a girl, is because her mom wanted to protect her from that outside world. And at first, that made her weaker. That made her, kind of like the target of a lot of people, eventually kind of finding her way into slavery. But through, time, turmoil, just eventual, kindness from other people, she found a reason to fight and a reason to stand up and a reason to protect. And so that's why she's here. And I think that Yukimura, obviously, he's incorporating all the themes of pacifism and, being able to protect, being able to try to be a better person, try to be a kinder person in a really dark world, being able to stand up, to that darkness and try to do something differently, or at least attempt to do something differently. And I think it's interesting here that it's all about defense. Now, obviously, because of Cordelia's bloodline and dealing with somebody like Thorkel, she's a massive person with like insanely like brick abs. Okay, so maybe this moment would not work if you were like a weaker person physically, but I think the intent is that it's all about just defense. Like, I am going to stand here in front of this door. I am willing to die to protect the people inside. And so maybe like a physically weaker person would die in this instance. But Cordelia has these benefits. She has this strength. She has, there is benefit here that like never benefited her in any other aspect of life, because she was raised as a girl, so that she's this like giant, awkward, like hulking man. But like in this particular instance, it's a benefit. So it's one of those things where it's like the thing that you think is a weakness, or the thing that you think makes you strange and different and whatever, it becomes your strength later on in a particular circumstance. So this is that moment for Cordelia. So, you know, I think it works. I think it works really well. And even they say here, he's probably the Nord's strongest warrior, which is funny and ironic because the complete intent of Cordelia's character was to not be raised as a warrior, but through that idea of protection and love for other people, you become the strongest warrior, right? So that's kind of the idea behind it, and I think that it works pretty well. I think it works in line with all the themes of Vinland Saga, and I think it was showcased well. And overall, you know, I thought it was a pretty good chapter. I mean, Cordelia is not my favorite character in the series or anything, and I really did want to get back to Thorfinn and those characters, but seeing how things played out here, I think this was a really, really great moment that definitely kind of like exemplifies pretty much everything that, you know, Yukimura usually tries to say within this manga. So I thought it was a great chapter. It's just that 2-month wait. It was just that, and I know that's going to happen sometimes. Look, I'm used to waiting months on end for manga chapters, so it's fine. But yeah, I'm just definitely curious to see what's going on with Thorfinn. But I'm really curious to see what happens when Ivyar gets to the situation, because I don't think he's ever been in like a real fight before. Sometimes it's hard to remember the details because I read so many stories and so many things and review so many things, and it's been like months and months or years since I've read like a particular chapter. So sometimes it's like, you know, it's just like, I only have so much hard drive in my brain to remember everything. But I know that Ivyar's never been in a war, but I don't even think he's ever really been in a real fight. I don't think. Maybe he has. I can't remember. But point is, that's probably going to go awry. And then, yeah, like I said, can't wait to get back to Thorfinn. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about Vinland Saga Chapter 208. Did you like the chapter? And then what do you guys think is going to happen next? So, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Please give it a thumbs up, comment, discuss below. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and I'll talk to you next time.